So part 2 of this is once you are hooked, so they have a point of entry and point of interest, common interest that they're trying to establish. So in this situation, it was, hey, you're in 12-step, I'm in 12-step. Hey, I'm doing all my step work. Hey, you're doing your step work. He's trying to find the hook. Once the hook is there, then he's going to try to prove how he's really doing his step work, okay? And he's going to try to do something with you just to confirm that. Then after that's established, he's going to lay out all the other sins, all the other problems that he did, and he's going to establish that he's already put all that behind him and that he's so into his program and he's really working his program, and therefore he's such in a great space because he's been clean and sober, and the story was for 31 years, okay? So after all this is established and we're talking and walking and sharing stories about his lifetime, my lifetime, what we did in this time apart from one another, and he's going on and he's telling me that when, again, he's going to have an emotional hook. So the emotional hook is that his parents were already dead, his parents that brought him up because he was adopted, and he's going on about how he misses them so much, and that because I had met them and I knew who they were, that he was like, you know how my mom was, you know how my dad was, like how amazing they were, blah blah blah. So it's like he's again getting an emotional hook about who his parents were when he was a teenager that I shared with him, and then he's talking about how much he misses them because they're dead, and then he's going on about how he really loves my parents, and that he remembers my parents being so awesome, and the fact that my parents are still alive, he's like, I can't wait to meet your parents, I want to meet them. And so again, this is really fast and really sudden, but he's doing all this with an additional, you're so amazing, you're an amazing person, a lot of flattery, you were so great in high school, at School for the Arts, you were so smart, when we kept in touch over these years, you were so inspirational. So he's like feeding me and telling me certain things that were puffing me up, but I didn't really see it as puffing me up. I just saw it as encouraging because of the way and the manipulation of how he was doing it, okay? And then after I'm like hooked in to what his story is, he then tells me a problem. So in this case, the problem was, his story about his problem was that he had a medical problem and it was a sleep disorder. And so he went into how he just couldn't manage it, and he had chronic, narcolepsy, and he could just fall asleep at any moment, and that, he had done all these different sleep studies, and I'm like asking him all these medical questions, right? And I said, well, take me with you to your medical doctor. Maybe there's something you're not hearing. Let me go along with you to your doctor's appointment. So of course he agrees to that, and now I'm going to a doctor's appointment with him. And on the doctor's appointment, the doctor is laying out what the disease is, the narcolepsy, how it affects, what medications are possible. He's basically telling me what to expect, what kind of things he could do, how to prepare. And I'm going, is he really okay to drive? And he's like, well, he really should have somebody with him when he's driving. And at this point, Eric didn't even have a car, okay? I had a car. I've always had a car. But I'm just saying, at this point, he didn't have a car. But again, his excuse and his narcissistic whole thing is, I'm a VIP. I travel all the time for my music and performances. I don't really need a car because I'm flying all the time and train back and forth to New York all the time. I don't need a car. So again, he's painting a picture to highlight the positive parts of not having a car, but he's not highlighting the real truth underneath of everything, okay? So the sleep doctor tells me that, these are some things that I can watch out for him. And I'm like, look, I don't live with him. We live separately, And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, my assumption. And I'm like, no, we're not living together. And so he basically then tells me, these are some things that Eric should consider, and that we should sign him up for sleep studies so that he could be monitored again. So again, very early on in our dating, all of a sudden I'm in the throes of his medical condition, and he's using this as a hook to basically tell me that his sleep disorder is such a problem and that he really needs help. So if you compare the symptoms of someone on heroin and the symptoms of someone on sleep narcolepsy, they're very similar. And guess what? Sleep narcolepsy is a great hiding spot for someone who is going to pretend that they have narcolepsy so that they could continue to be a full-blown heroin addict and drug addict, mixing all kinds of drug cocktails and having that falling over effect. And again, I was being told, hey, he has a sleep disorder, he has a problem. So if I ever found him falling over, I was thinking that he had this sleep disorder. So I'm going to wrap up and start up again. Thank you for listening.